Elden Ring. It's the biggest game of the year. It's the latest entry in From Software's masochistic mega series of action RPGs set in dead, ruined worlds full of monsters who want to kick you in the teeth. And it's got a lot of people asking one question. Should I play Elden Ring? Well, I played Elden Ring, but should you play Elden Ring? Well, after taking a vacation from this job for an entire week to do nothing but play the game, I think I can help you answer that question. Alright folks, before we get into the video, I just want to remind you all to please sub to the channel and turn on notifications because believe me, it is the only way you can become an Elden Lord. So, is Elden Ring right for you? Well, if you've played or enjoyed any of From Software's previous Dark Souls games, or Bloodborne, or the Kingsfield series if you're a truly insane turbo masochist, then you probably don't need to ask yourself anything. If you like Dark Souls already, Elden Ring is definitely the game for you. If you're anything like me, you'll probably have a few issues with it, mostly pertaining to the open world, but you are gonna like it because it's just like the other Dark Souls games, but way bigger. You're not going from small interconnected zone to small interconnected zone. There is pretty much nothing in this game like the mostly straight path from Firelink Shrine to Anor Londo in Dark Souls 1. Instead, all the castles, ruins, and forests that you love bashing your head against are sprinkled around a truly massive map. And if you're having trouble with one, you can just run across the map and go to another. Now, sometimes this huge map does get in the way of the game being the Dark Souls you might want it to be. If you just want to do the content that feels like From Software's older games, you're going to spend a lot of time running around between that stuff on the open world, and it might feel a little frustrating. That said, when this game hits, both in the open world and in the traditional Dark Souls style legacy dungeons, it f***ing hits. But if you have never played a Souls game and want to know if you should try Elden Ring, or if you did play Souls games, didn't like them, and now you're feeling some intense FOMO because everyone on your Steam list is 40 hours into their adventure in the lands between, let me try to sell you on the game a little bit. So to start, if you like just the idea of a challenging action RPG that doesn't really hold your hand, I think you should just check out Elden Ring without asking any more questions. There is a real satisfaction from triumphing over this game's challenges. To go back to the challenge thing, Elden Ring respects your intelligence and skill as a player. And it's not going to throw stuff at you that's impossible, but it's also not going to throw anything super easy at you. Nothing feels as good as triumphing over this game's challenges. And in terms of the open world, Elden Ring doesn't have any waypoints or quest markers or really many collectibles beyond important items, weapons, and crafting materials. This is not a game that is telling you where to go or what to do basically at any time. In that way, it's really different from modern open world action games like Assassin's Creed or Far Cry. Those games are often defined by checklists of chores that the devs think you might enjoy doing while playing the game. Elden Ring pretty much leaves all of that decision making up to you and whatever you see on the horizon that might look cool to explore. In that way, it's a lot like Breath of the Wild, another truly incredible open world game that left all the content finding and path making up to you as the player. It's really good stuff. For example, I really struggled with the game's first story boss, so I explored the open world instead of bashing my head against him some more. That way, I ended up going into an area that was leading to one of the game's end game zones, and my level 20 ass was pushing up against level 50 content and doing mostly fine by playing smart and using all the cool tools I was picking up. Another awesome moment I had in the open world was actually in that near endgame zone. I was wandering around, I saw a windmill and a bunch of women dancing around a bonfire near it. I approached because I saw an item in the bonfire and it was actually the nobleman's armor set. These ladies were burning a rich dude alive, and as soon as I pulled his clothes and weapon out of the fire, their eyes turned red, they pulled out pitchforks and torches, and they started attacking me. Not only that, but a bunch of burning skeletons rose up from the bonfire and started attacking me too, specifically by exploding at me for huge damage. It was a really cool moment. My last little cool moment that I'll share with you that hopefully convinces you that this game is really something special and worth trying is a cheese strat I found that is really, really cool. I ended up being a level 50 character in a level 80 near endgame zone because I killed a boss using the rot status ailment. I inflicted him with rot and then walked away as the poison slowly killed him. I had no business beating this boss, and yet I did it because this game really lets you do anything you want. And before you worry that all this fun freewheeling exploration gets ruined by how hard everyone says this game is, I'm here to tell you that Elden Ring does not have to be that difficult if you don't want it to be. There are a lot of invisible difficulty switches you can flip if you want to make the game easier for you, and you shouldn't let anyone tell you that you're playing the game wrong for using them. So now that you hopefully agree with me that Elden Ring is a really cool game that you should check out because it's so unique and interesting and fun, let me share some tips with you on how to make the play experience a little less bumpy as you're starting out. Starting out with the fact that there is a secret tutorial right here. Jump down this hole. I promise. I know it looks deadly, but there is a tutorial down there. It'll teach you all about combat, including all the new things added to this game that previous FromSoft games didn't have, like guard counters, for example. Before you go into the tutorial though, you'll have to pick a class. You can't really go wrong here, but you definitely shouldn't pick Wretch. It's really hard for a new player. Meanwhile, Samurai and Astrologer are really great choices for a first timer. As for keepsakes, mostly 2 options for a beginner: Golden Seed if you want extra heals, or Fanged Imp Ashes if you want a bit of an easier time fighting bosses. Now, once you've done all of that, the most important thing you can do is follow the golden arrows on your map leading from Site of Grace to Site of Grace. I believe once you hit 4 of them, you'll meet Melina, who is going to give you a horse, which is very important, and teach you how to level up. From there, you could go to fight the first main boss, Margit. I'm not ashamed to tell you, I didn't beat him until I was level 23. He is hard. Instead of bashing your head against him, you should do some exploring. There's lots of stuff to do in Limgrave, and you will get lots of levels while doing it. You can actually go and do the entire second main dungeon before beating Margit. And honestly, I kind of think that dungeon is easier, so maybe it's a good choice. Speaking of exploring, the first and most important thing you should be doing in any area in the game is getting the map fragment. The first one is right here, but if you open your map after entering a new area, you can actually see where the map fragment is hanging out. Elden Ring puts a lot of stuff directly on the map, so make sure to keep checking it. And the last tip I can give you is to please use summons and Ashes of War when you need them. They will make bosses easier if you're having trouble, and it is not wrong to make use of that. I know lots of people will say that using these mechanics isn't playing the game as intended, but f those people. Do whatever you need to do to make this game fun for you. That's what playing games is about. Anyway, I think Elden Ring is a fantastic game, and if you've made it all the way to the end of this video, I think you'll enjoy it too. It is really cool and unique, and it lets you play however you want. It is not as daunting as some people say it is if that's what's scaring you off. Plus, no other game has a turtle pope. Look at this dude. He's awesome. The weirdest thing that happened to me is that, so there's a lot of churches around the game that are churches like, I assume to like various deities in the game's mythology. There's a lot of George R.R. Martin ass shit in here. One of them is the Church of Irith, I-R-I-T-H, which is my mom's name. And she spells it really specifically with the TH, even because it's just like kind of close to the way that you might spell it in Hebrew. And that's exactly like that in this game, and it really threw me off. I had to send her a picture. It f***ed me up. It was so weird.